Hello, welcome. It's so lovely to see you here. My name is Jodie Salt. I'm an assertiveness coach for women, and today I'm going to be sharing with you this amazing masterclass all around the secret to getting what you want in life and business. So I'm going to start by telling you a little bit about me. So here on the screen, you can see the 4-year-old version of me. Now I know you can see the real version of me here, the 42-year-old version of me. But it's important that I take you back to this 4-year-old version of me, because this is the true, the authentic, the best version of me. And when I was 4 years old, that's when I felt my best. Like, I really connected with myself. In fact, you can tell by the look on my face there, can't you? I am living my best life. My favourite dress on, it had lions in the grass around the bottom. You can tell I'm just enjoying life, laughing, proper belly laugh. And it's just an amazing kind of feeling when you can laugh like that. I was free. I had a wild imagination. I didn't care what anybody thought of me. You know what? And as I've grown up, I've lost touch with that version of me. So I'm like, right, do I remember her? Now, when I was 4 years old, it wasn't that cool to be called Jodie in the 1980s. And so I used to tell people that I was called many different names, actually. I even think I tried to tell a few people that I was called Madonna at one point. That's a bit embarrassing, isn't it? But hey, I also tried to go by the name of Charlotte occasionally. But actually, my all-time favourite, I wished that I was called Violet. So now as a grown-up, I regularly reconnect with this version of me. I remember her. And when I'm having a bit of a tricky time, or I'm not feeling so good, or I need to make a really important decision of my life, then I will always ask myself, what would Violet do? Because she will make a very, very different decision than the 42-year-old version of me would make, now that I have been experienced in the world, tainted a bit by society, had many expectations of others placed upon me. And you probably have too. So actually, let me share some of those expectations, those stories, those narratives that were placed on me at a young age that did actually shape my young adult years. I remember my chemistry teacher saying to me, and I'll put the accent on for this one as well, girls who dye their hair do not pass their exams. I remember my French teacher telling my mum on parents' evening she's going to be lucky if she gets a D in French in this GCSE. Somebody placed a bet with me once that I would be pregnant before I was 16. I mean, what an expectation to place on somebody that, you know what, I bet you a tenner you'll be pregnant by the time you're 16. You know what, when people place these expectations on us, these stories on us, we live up to them, right? We live up to them. I had a boyfriend who said to me, do you know what, you're nothing without me. But don't worry, I'll mold you into what you need to be. And I even recall a point where my own dad said to me, Jodie, you are deluded, absolutely deluded, if you think you can pass your driving test when you've only had 2 lessons and you've still got one of your arms in plaster. Now, he didn't believe in me, did he? He didn't believe in me. So these are just a handful of some of the stories that people were writing on my behalf. But you know what? They picked the wrong girl. They absolutely picked the wrong girl, because I'm not a conformist. I like to be a bit of a fighter. I'm certainly a rule breaker, and I've always had this fire in my belly, this deep sense of wanting to challenge things. You know, one of my all-time favorite sayings is, if you obey all the rules, you miss all the fun. So I bet you're dying to know, actually, aren't you? How many of those things did play out for me in real life? Let's just flip back to them, actually. Chemistry teacher. Did I pass chemistry? Of course I flipping did. I think I did dual award science and I got a double B. Mega. Also did the same in French, actually. I got a B in French. Do you think I was pregnant at 16? No, sorry, didn't have my first baby until I was 24. The boyfriend who said to me, "You're nothing without me." Now, I did marry him. But it only lasted 10 months. And after 10 months, I woke up one day and I realised that I'd made a massive mistake. So I took accountability for myself and I decided to leave. And do you know what? Lo and behold, of course, I passed that driving test after 2 lessons with my arm in plaster. And would you believe, with only 2 minor faults. But I know that that's not the way that these things pan out for many of us, for most women. You know, me having that deep sense of being a fighter, of not conforming, of wanting to break the pattern, that's what enabled me to push past that. And I didn't realise that that was as unique as it is until kind of the last 5, 6, 7 years, really. So that's why I made it my mission to get out there and help other women to get past some of the stories that are being written for them. And fundamentally, as you can see there, my job is to help women woman up. All right. Now, it's really, really important that I explain to you what woman up means, because actually it's caused quite a bit of controversy when I've been talking to people on my, on my tours and getting out and about and going networking and speaking at events. When I first bring this term up, most people are like, well, that's not very good, is it? Because they assume that it's just the female version of man up. Now, telling men to man up has actually been very detrimental to a lot of men's mental health. In fact, you don't need me to tell you that we've got, quite high suicide rates in men in this country. And I bet being told to man up hasn't helped some of that. So I am not about to impose that and just flip it into a feminine sense and do exactly the same to women. Oh, no, sirree. So what does it really mean to woman up? Well, woman up in this context means to help women to rise, to elevate women, to give them a platform, to have a voice, to be heard, to step into their power, to own their space, to know what they want, shamelessly declare it to the world, and go out and make it happen. So that's why I'm in the business of helping women to woman up. Look, I've even got it you can't see there. I've even got it tattooed on my wrist. Yeah. Just to remind me every single day. Not that I need reminding at all. So does that sound like something that would be good for you? Do you want to reconnect with your true identity, your version of My Violet? Do you want to find your voice? Do you want to be heard? Do you want to own this story of yours? Do you want to live the happy, fulfilling and successful life that you bloody well deserve? Because if you do, you're in the right place. You're in the right place. So now that we're clear on what it means to woman up, let's get down to business, because I'm sure you've guessed by now that being able to woman up is a huge, huge part of this secret to getting what you want in life and in business. So, some reasons why, okay? Because you might be sitting there thinking, oh, it all sounds very good, but what's the point? Why bother? What difference will it make if I do the work and I decide to woman up? Well, look, I'm not going to read all of these out for you. You can see them there. But there are so many benefits to doing so. Many women I know are desperate to be able to say no to a few more things. So being able to woman up allows you to get what you want, and it gives you the power to say no. It means that you can have more influence, more credibility, particularly in work and business. I love this word, liberate. I love to make people, and women in particular, feel liberated. And it is such a lovely feeling to feel liberated. And I want that for you. You can see there, it earns your respect and it stops people taking the piss out of you. Maybe you're a worrier and you'd like to stop worrying. Maybe you're in this for the real tangible stuff and you'd like to make more money in your career and business. Well, let me tell you, it absolutely can. If you want to climb the corporate career ladder, If you want to get your business to boom, then developing yourself in the Woman Up skills will massively make a positive difference to that. So many good reasons to Woman Up. Now, Woman Up is underpinned by one main skill, okay? And that skill is assertiveness, okay? Hence why I'm an assertiveness coach for women. But a lot of people don't actually know what it means to be assertive. There's some very wonky definitions, particularly in a female sense out there. So it's worthy of spending a quick minute just giving you absolute clarity on what it means to be assertive. So I'm going to start at the top. It means to be able to stand up for your own or others' rights in a really calm and a really positive way. So there's a few things I want to point out there. Number one, it's not just about you. It's also about standing up for other people. Two things about that: in a calm and a positive way. All right. Now, positive doesn't always mean yay, happy, clappy, sun shining, jazz hands, but it does mean in an accountable, in a purposeful way, in a way that gets results. Being assertive is also someone who can behave confidently and that you're not frightened to say what you want. Now, it's got that magic word in it, hasn't it? Confidence. Now, sadly, confidence, there's no magic switch on your back you can just flick on. Equally, you can't order it off Amazon Prime and, it rocks up on your doorstep the next day. Confidence is a state, okay? Confidence is a state, and it appears as a result of feeling able and capable in what you're about to do. So if you're not able and capable of saying what you want, i.e., you don't actually know what you want, and that's the case for a lot of women, I'll come on to that shortly, or you lack the skill in being able to articulate that succinctly, then you are going to struggle and you're likely to get quite a bit of pushback from talking about what you want, which means maybe in years gone by, you've had a go at saying what you want and you've had your fingers burned because somebody's jumped all over it and told you, don't be so silly. And then you put off for life. So that's an important part of being assertive. It's also about being positive or confident in a persistent way. So I've talked about positive, talked about confident. The key word here is persistence. Persistence beats resistance every day of the week, okay? So this is about not throwing the towel in at the first hurdle. We don't always get through on the first time when, the first attempt, the first conversation. It requires a bit of tenacity, a bit of perseverance, and a bit of grit, yeah? So having a bit of grit about you to not give up, to be determined and keep going with something is a huge part of being assertive. It's also somebody who is able to state their needs and opinions clearly so that other people take notice. Okay, two things in there: needs, what you need personally, your opinion, because you are allowed to have one, and be able to do them clearly. So that's about how skilled you are at articulating yourself and in a way that people take notice. So it's got to be influential. It's got to land with impact so that it gets heard. And most importantly, last but by no means least, it is a skill. And because it's a skill, that means anyone can learn it. All right. So if you're sitting there, somebody who's maybe had the badge, the expectation, the story put on you that, you're just too nice. You're too nice to be assertive. I want you to screw that up and throw it in the bin right now, because they are not mutually exclusive. You can be nice and you can be assertive at the same time. It is a skill, so anybody can learn it. Two important ingredients to being assertive. You see them here. Consideration on the vertical axes, courage on the horizontal axes. Courage is about how brave we feel, how courageous we are in being able to state our own wants and needs. Consideration is about your ability to work to satisfy somebody else's wants and needs. And consideration always comes first. Okay, so when we're being assertive, we always lead with consideration and then follow up with courage. So you'll see across these two axes, you can get one of four outcomes here, dependent on how you go about using the two ingredients of consideration and courage. So for most women, all right, we have bucketfuls of consideration, but very low courage. All right, so that results in a passive situation. It's lose-win. We lose because we're passive, we're people pleasers, we're doormats, and we put the other person's wants and needs first, which means they win. So that leaves us in a situation where we're not okay, but the other person is. It's kind of not what we want. The opposite end of that spectrum, though, which is where many women swing to when they're trying to have a go at being assertive, is then they flip it completely. They go all in with courage and lose the consideration. When we do that, we end up aggressive. Complete opposite. We railroad, bull in a china shop. We win, the other person loses. We end up okay, they end up not okay. What we're looking for, high degrees of both. High consideration, high courage. That's assertive. It's win-win. We both get out of it what we wanted because I've been considerate enough to work hard to meet your wants and needs. And I've been brave and courageous enough to still want to meet my own wants and needs. That's when we get assertiveness. That's when I'm okay and you're okay. But there's still a quadrant that we've not talked about, and that's this bottom left one. When consideration is low and courage is low, we end up with a lose-lose situation, which is when we behave passive-aggressively. Now, most people don't identify with being passive-aggressive, yet it is very common behaviour. So what I mean by that, if you are somebody who huffs and puffs, eye rolls at people, says I'm fine when you're quite frankly not, if you are sarcastic, if you mutter to other people and complain to other people about stuff but never say it to the actual person, all of that is very passive aggressive behavior. So if you notice you demonstrate a little bit of that, then first bit of self-awareness is maybe you're a little bit more passive aggressive than you think you might be. And I want you to be okay with that because you're not alone. A lot of women are. Doesn't mean you're going to stay like that. We're going to do something about it. Okay, so that should give you a good grounding actually in what it means to be assertive. Now, you may have come across in your life the idea of like positive affirmations, because when we undergo a decision like, right, that's it, I want to woman up, what it usually means is that we've got to rewire some things in our brains, because if we want to behave differently, we have to change our mindset. And changing our mindset means we have to believe different things. Now, this hugely helps all of the women I work with to get the right mindset. And it's the assertive Bill of Rights. 10 statements that really help you to give yourself permission to do this, to give yourself permission to woman up. So I am going to read through these because these are really important that they land with impact. So, assertive Bill of Rights. Number 1, I have the right to have and express opinions, views, and ideas which may or may not be different from other people's. And so do you. Number 2, I have the right to have these opinions, views, and ideas listened to and respected. Not necessarily agreed with or put on a pedestal, but accepted as being valid for me. And so do you. Number 3, I have the right to have needs and wants that might be different from other people's. And so do you. Number 4, I have a right to ask, not demand, that others respond to my needs and wants. And so do you. Number 5, I have the right to refuse a request without feeling guilty or without feeling selfish, and so do you. Number 6, I have the right to have feelings and to express them assertively if I so choose, and so do you. Number 7, I have the right to be human, which means I can be wrong sometimes. I'm allowed to be wrong, and so do you. Number 8, I have the right to decide not to assert myself. So, if I don't want to, I have the right not to choose not to raise a particular issue. And so do you. Number 9, I have the right to be true to my own self. And that might be the same as or different from what others may like me to be. And that includes choosing friends, my interests, etc. And so do you. And finally, number 10, I have the right to have others respect my rights. And so do you. So, job number 1 in the secret to getting what you want in life and business is making these 10 statements new beliefs of yours. Because once you believe these, use them as positive affirmations. Once you believe these, you will start to see them play out in your behavior, and that will naturally enable you to be a bit more assertive. Oh, shocker. Look at that. Women are their own worst enemy. How dare I say that? Now, that might sound controversial, I know. But hey, sometimes, you may have come across the phrase, sometimes we sabotage ourselves. Yeah, we put ourselves through some different forms of self-sabotage. We get in our own way. All right. And often with some of these issues, we're really quick to blame other people, other things, come up with excuses as to why we can't do certain stuff. And if we're going to step into the space of woman up, it means we take accountability for ourselves and we take action to get out of our own way. So it's time for a long, hard look in the mirror. This is all about raising your levels of self-awareness. And I want to do that by taking you through the 5 most common mistakes that women make and how you can avoid them or overcome them from this point forward. So the 5 are, just to give you the quick rundown. Number 1, first mistake women make is they've got no idea what they want. Number 2, they have Cinderella syndrome. I'll bring that to life for you in a minute. Number 3, they suffer from the oxygen mask fail. Number 4, they give too much of a fuck what other people think. And number 5, they've got no grit. Okay, so I'm going to do a whistle-stop tour. I'm going to take you through each one of these. So let's talk about what women want. I know I've put that song in your head now, haven't I? You'll be singing the Spice Girls all day. Here's what happens is, for most women, they can tell people what they don't want, but struggle with what they do want. And I say that because I've been there myself. One of the first questions I ask most of my female coaching clients is, what is it that you really want? What do you deeply desire? And they'll do one of 2 things. They'll either tell me everything that they don't want, or they'll sit there and say to me, I don't know. I've never really given it much thought. I've always kind of just pushed it to one side. So both of those things are really common, but I don't want them to be acceptable for you. I want you to be able to figure out what you want. Another reason behind this is that we believe that the life that we dream of, well, that's not for people like us. This happened for me, from a young child, from Violet, age 4. I wanted to write a book, but the way my life had panned out and all of the kind of societal norms that I began to conform to, they all told me that people like you don't write books. That's for people special, better, more intelligent, smarter, clever, got more money. bit more privileged than you, whatever it was. That was kind of what was going on for me belief-wise. So I believed that the life that I dreamt of, well, Jodie, that's not for people like you. I don't know. Is that true for you too? For some people, deep down, we don't believe that we deserve it, or maybe we don't believe that we're capable of it. And because of that, sometimes it's self-worth and self-respect, low levels of those things that are often at the heart of the issue. That stops us from believing that we deserve something or that we're capable of it, because we've got low levels of self-worth and or self-respect. So maybe some of those bullet points have triggered something for you. But what do you do about it? This is the most important thing, right? If that resonates with you, what do you do about it? Well, a couple of things you can do. Number one, start uncovering some of those limiting beliefs and get addressing them. All right. And that involves working on your inner critic. So what I mean by that is you've all got that voice in your head, right? Don't make me look like the crazy lady. She's usually he, she, they, whoever they are, the voice in your head. I want you to detach from them. They are not you, right? But actually, I want you to start to take notice of the things that they try to say to you, the stories that they tell you, the labels that they place upon you, okay? And do some work on reframing those beliefs to something more positive that will serve you better. It's also about unconditional love, unconditional respect, and unconditional positive regard. Those three things, those three unconditional things: love for yourself, respect for yourself, and positive regard for yourself. That is about your intent. Yeah. You trust that you always come from a good place. That's what will boost your levels of self-worth. And actually sit down, take some time out, do the hard work of figuring out what it is that you really want and get crystal clear on it. I guarantee doing that, you'll start to feel that sense of liberation straight away. So that's number one. Number two is Cinderella syndrome. So you're probably thinking, oh, well, what's all this about? What's Cinderella syndrome? Well, quite simply, this is where we try to please all the people all the time. We spread ourselves too thin. We end up feeling really weary. We live our lives through other people, or we live out other people's old-fashioned expectations of us. Sometimes that's our parents, okay? We also end up bottling stuff up, and that makes us bitter, twisted, and very resentful. Okay, pause and get a sense of how much resentment are you carrying? Because I used to carry a lot. I know I mentioned I married the boyfriend, but it only lasted 10 months. And that was because the resentment grew too much. It was like poison. It was toxic for me. So it had to go. It absolutely had to go. And also, we, quite often don't have personal boundaries, or if we do, we don't uphold them. We allow people to violate them. So, are you somebody that suffers with Cinderella syndrome? Ooh, need your teeth in for that one. Suffer with Cinderella syndrome. Here's what you can do. All right. It's all about the boundaries, all about setting personal boundaries. So if you do nothing else, fill in the blanks on these three sentences. People may not, what is it that you're saying? No, people can't do that with me. Number two, I have the right to ask for. Maybe you go back to the assertive Bill of Rights and use one of them to put, fill in the blank there. Number three, to protect my time and energy, it's okay to what? You fill in the blank. Now, the important thing is once you've set these, you've got to communicate them, and then you've got to uphold them. So that means if people try to violate them, you put the barriers up and it's like, no, let me just remind you of my personal boundaries. Okay. Now that might feel really alien. And if you've never done this before, when you try to do it, know that that will feel like a bit of a surprise for the people who are surrounding you. Your behavior is going to be different, and that might be a bit of a shock for them. So don't be surprised if they do try and push through, if they do try and barge on through your boundaries. Your job, remember, tenacity, perseverance, grit, stick with it, and uphold them. All about the boundaries. Number 3, the oxygen mask fail. Right, you'll know this if you've been on an aeroplane, when they do the safety briefing before takeoff, and they say to you, now, should the oxygen masks fall from the panel above your head, please make sure you fit your own oxygen mask first before helping anybody else. This is an analogy that applies to women in life, because what we do is we don't help ourselves first so that we can better help other people. We put ourselves at the bottom of the list. We go to the bottom of the pile, and we run around helping everybody else. If we ever do put ourselves first, we start to feel guilty because of that. And then we don't take care of ourselves physically. We don't take care of ourselves mentally. And then that just becomes a big downward spiral. So I encourage you to flip this. If it's really important to you, if one of your big values is about, the help and support that you give to your loved ones around you, then know that the best way that you can serve them is to serve yourself first. If you serve yourself first, they get a much better version of you. Whereas if you're going through days, dragging yourself through a hedge backwards, flopping onto the sofa, almost malnourished, not taking care of yourself, then they're not going to get a good service from you. So it is a false economy. So please, please, please put your own oxygen mask on first. So what I've just described there is called changing the narrative. By putting yourself first, you give other people the best version of yourself and you serve them even better. If you've worked on your self-worth, point 2, then just, do it for you. I'd love it if you got to the point where you could do it just for you. It is an investment in your future. And you know what? I'm sure you don't need me to remind you that you only get one shot at this game. All right? Be consistent, have routine, have discipline, prioritize and plan. I bet you're able to have discipline, routine and planning in many other areas of your life, but not when it comes to putting your self-care first. So you have the ability, you have the skill. Your job here is to make it transferable into a new context. And that new context is you. Okay? And then I want you to make a commitment for yourself, just like you would make a commitment to anybody else. And know that you wouldn't let somebody else down. You'd go through with something that you really didn't want to do, that you were so tired and you had any energy to do. You still would do it because you wouldn't let them down. So I don't want you to let yourself down either. This is about, I wrote a phrase in my daughter's 16th birthday card last year because she's very altruistic, always puts other people before herself. And so I wrote in her card, disappoint as many people as it takes to avoid disappointing yourself. And that would be the phrase that I want you to think about in this one too. Okay? Number 4, people just give too much of a fuck. All right, so I know this one resonates with nearly every woman I speak to. Too bothered about what other people think. Fearful of being judged. Scared of how other people might react if we speak up. We worry about overreacting or being emotional. And we're influenced too easily by other people's opinions of us and things. So this can really, really take its toll on you if you give too much of a fuck about other people. So this one's important about how you can overcome it and avoid it. First one is, do you know what? The reality of the situation is that realize that people are far too wrapped up worrying about what people think about them to be judging you. All right. And actually, when we worry about other people judging us, that's often a reflection of ourselves. So just check in with yourself. If you're worried about what other people think of you, then you're viewing that through your own lens, which is likely to mean you're quite a judgmental person, either judgmental of yourself and/or judgmental of other people. So stop judging yourself, stop judging other people. You don't have to draw meaning from everything that happens. You can just observe something for what it is, be like, oh, that's what it is. It doesn't have to equal something. It doesn't have to mean something. We don't have to conclude anything because of what we notice and what we observe. I also recommend you spend some time working out your why. What is your purpose on this earth, with your own name badge on? Not as mum, not as wife, not as chief cook and bottle washer, not as carer, not as whatever the job title is for the role that you do. You know, work out what your own values are, what's important to you, and and then you can really stand comfortable and strong in your own opinions. I also encourage you to learn to describe emotion rather than display it. This is something that I help lots and lots of women with, actually, is that quite often women get feedback that they're just too emotional. They're just too emotional. And that's because obviously we're really emotionally intelligent. I think women find it much easier to tap into their emotional intelligence. And we allow it to kind of just ooze out of us. Now, it's not about burying emotion. Please don't suppress emotion. Don't bottle it up. Don't swallow it. Don't push it down. But you can handle it better. You can be in control of it. So if somebody has really pissed you off, instead of going batshit crazy about it, you learn to describe it and say, do you know what? I'm absolutely furious about the way that you've handled this. I'm so cross. Maybe you might even say something like, I'm so cross, I can't even look at you at the moment. I'm that angry. But I'm describing it. I'm not displaying it. And then the last one on this, do a fuck assessment. What I mean by this is think about how much of a fuck you're giving and how much you think you can tolerate, and set yourself a fuck budget. Work out the things that are important for you to give a fuck about, and have you got enough capacity for the ones that are most important? Once your budget's up, the rest has got to go. Got no budget left to give a fuck about some of the other stuff. Anyway, I've said the word fuck far too often on that slide now, so I'm going to move on. Number 5, got no grit. So this is all about when we give in too easily. We lack that tenacity, that perseverance, that grit. As I said at the beginning, we end up believing that we weren't born to be assertive. I'm just too nice. Some women really struggle to articulate themselves clearly and succinctly. They also struggle to say no to things. We don't get taken seriously because actually we don't take ourselves seriously. We play ourselves down, and therefore we have no credibility, no influence, and then we don't get the respect that we want. And that's in both our work life and our personal life. So what do you do about this one? All right. Well, grit is all about the perseverance and passion to achieve long-term goals. It's about working hard on being tenacious and persevering, avoiding the throwing of the towel in too early if it doesn't work. Go by the saying, I do, persistence beats resistance. Ask any 3-year-old, right? 3-year-old is very persistent, and 9 times out of 10, I'm like, oh, for God's sake, fine, have your toys, whatever it is. Recognize, I want you to know, you can be nice and assertive at the same time. Do you know what? You can even wear a floral tea dress and your Converse pumps too, if you like, and you can still look assertive. If you want to be more succinct and avoid the condition called waffleitis, then practice 6-word stories. What I mean by that is start out, think about what it is that you want to say, and see if you can just write it in 6 words. Okay, if you start with 6 words and then build it up a little bit, maybe double it to 12, maybe take it to 18, triple it, but keep it to a minimum. You're adding the connectives in to the 6 words that you've got. That will help you to stay on point, stay on message, and be succinct. And then finally, if you're somebody who needs to say no a little bit more, then practice this guilt-free formula for saying no, which you can see here on the slide. Step 1, have a word with yourself. That means give yourself permission to say no. Go back to the assertive Bill of Rights if you need to. Number 2, always start with a compliment. So the example I used here is being asked to chair the PTA for another year running. Is actually, if I get asked in the playground, you know, maybe Sandra comes over to me and she's like, "Oh, Jodie, I'm glad I've seen you. I really wanted to ask you, would you be up for chairing the PTA this next year?" And inside, I'm like, "Oh, there's nothing worse. There's nothing that I would rather do less than chair the PTA." Well, first off, I start with a compliment. So it would sound like, "Oh, thanks, Sandra. You know what? I'm really chuffed. I feel quite flattered, actually, that you've asked me, that you think I'd be quite good at chairing the PTA. That's really lovely. Thank you." Then I'm going to say no, and I'm going to own it. Okay? Now, that means I don't justify myself. So I'm not going to try and explain why I can't. So I just say, as I said, Sandra, thank you. I'm hugely flattered, but it's not for me. Thank you. I'm going to say no. And I leave it at that. And I'll pause then. So step 4 is about being rational, not emotional. So don't get sucked in with the guilt. Remember, guilt is an emotion. Stay rational. Imagine that you've got this ball of uncomfortableness because you get a bit squirmy at this point, and you're likely to start talking, waffleitising in that moment to fill the awkward silence. So instead of doing that, metaphorically, pass the ball of uncomfortableness to them and just wait. Just wait. Now, if these people are used to you saying yes most of the time, they're likely to try and plead with you. So very quickly, change the subject and move on. So I'll say, "Oh, actually, Sandra, I'm really glad I saw you two this morning because I wanted to check with you. Can Bertie still come to Rupert's party on Saturday?" Job done. All right. Now, if they go again, it's time to deploy the broken record strategy. That means you just rinse and repeat. So you say, "Sandra, thank you. I am hugely flattered. As I said, it's a no from me. But are you coming for coffee with me and the girls on Tuesday?" All right. Just keep rinsing and repeat, rinse and repeat. So that is a game changer. All right. So you practice that. So those are your 5 common mistakes that women make and how to avoid them and overcome them. But I said to you there was a secret, didn't I? The secret to getting what you want in life and business. So I want to spend a little bit of time sharing with you what that secret potion, as we like to call it, is. It's gin and Prosecco. No, I'm just kidding. Although it does help. I'm not advocating though that you turn to drink to woman up. Nah, doesn't really help. But the secret potion is this: the woman up way. So in writing of the book, as you can see, in addressing a lot of the things that I've talked to you about already, I developed this methodology. Okay, 8 main steps to the woman up way. The core in the middle is all about beliefs and mindset. And in this process, there's 3 mindsets: being more accountable for yourself, being more present and in the moment with yourself and life, and developing the courage to be brave and speak up for yourself. And then 7 main elements. Now, in the research that I've done with the women that I've worked with, I settled on these 7 things because if you do the development in these 7 areas of your life, you will live the happy, fulfilling, and successful life that you bloody well deserve. Okay? I know that for sure. I've done it. Many of my clients have done it. And we are just now this wonderful group of very liberated women living our best lives. And I want you to be able to do the same. So we start out by reconnecting with our identity. So I introduced you to Violet. She's my identity. I want to be able to help you do the same with that. Then we talk about power. How do we step into our power and own our, become masters of our own destiny, really decide what it is that we want for ourselves and be able to shamelessly declare that for the work to the world. Then we talk about communication. So how do we communicate assertively, succinctly, without waffleitis? How do we have influence? How do we get ourselves heard? How do we get people to do the things that we want them to do? That's what we do in communication. Emotion is all about the range of emotions that we feel, from joy, passion, excitement, to sadness, anger, frustration, jealousy, shame, envy, all of those things. How do we tap into emotion? Because that's our emotions and feelings are our body's way of trying to tell us something. So how do we allow ourselves to feel more and use them to our advantage, but in a way that I described earlier, where we can describe them rather than necessarily always display them? Then we explore relationships, and I mean all kinds of relationships: work relationships, parental relationships, sibling relationships, loving relationships with your partner, wife, husband, whatever it may be. All of our relationships, and look to how do we avoid toxicity in those relationships? How do we make sure that those relationships are healthy? How do we make sure that those relationships are serving us well? And then the last two are about credibility. So how do we get seen and respected, that tops up our self-worth, that gets what we want, that has influence, who is trusted, who is an expert in their field? And then finally, becoming a luminary lady. How do we inspire others? How do we then get out there and support other women to do the same? How do we support the next generation of young girls so that they get to grow up without having to do this in later life? We help them do it out the blocks. And at the same time, how do we educate our boys to interact with women and have certain better beliefs about women to serve them for the future? So loads of stuff in there. So my big question to you is, are you ready? Are you ready? Are you ready? Are you ready to woman up? Because hopefully after hearing all of that, you're like, let me at him, let me at him. I want to woman up, pick me, pick me, pick me. You know, I'm hoping that has inspired you to want to make the changes in your life that will enable you to live the happy, fulfilling and successful life that you deserve. So I'm going to talk to you about how I can do that. Now, I make a promise to every woman that works with me, and that promise is this: to be your mirror. And that means that I reflect back to you what's really going on. And that involves sometimes when those messages might be a little bit tough to hear. I promise to be your friend, be your coach, to help you make the mindset and behavioral changes and choices so that you can live the life that you dream of. Most importantly, to give you all of the tools and the support so that you can feel liberated and you can woman up. There's 5 key measures for me in all of my work to inspire you, to empower you, to educate you, to entertain you, and most importantly, to liberate you. Now, going on a woman up journey, how will it improve your life? Really simply, it will allow you to reconnect with your true identity. It will allow you to step into your own space. It will allow you to own your life. It will allow you to know what you want, and it will allow you to go out and make it happen. Basically, in a simple equation, woman up equals more happiness, more success, more freedom, and more joy. Now, you might be sitting there thinking, well, hang on a minute, how do I know if it's for me? Is it for me? Is it for other people? Surely it's not for women like me. So maybe this will help you. This is absolutely for you. If 1, 2, 3, all of this list applies, then it is for you. You know, a classic one is that your life looks good on paper, but really deep down, you're not that happy. And maybe feel guilty about that because it looks good on paper. For a lot of women, they don't recognize the woman who's staring back at them in the mirror. They've just lost touch with that person. If you're feeling like you're a doormat or a people pleaser, absolutely, it's for you. If you struggle to say no or you struggle to put yourself first, definitely big tick. This one's for you. If you don't know what it is that you really want, or you don't believe that you deserve it, yeah, it's definitely for you. If you're somebody who struggles to manage your emotions, maybe you hate conflict, maybe you hate confrontation, again, absolutely it's for you. And right down at the bare basics of it. If you're a woman who just wants more, do you know what? I'm a woman who wants more from life, then it is definitely for you. So, how do you get involved in all of this? Yeah. Well, guess what? Packaged it all up into a perfect little app. All right. And this app is known as the Netflix of women's personal development. So, if you've got time to binge watch Bridgerton or Peaky Blinders or Emily in Paris on Netflix, then you've got time for this in your life, because this is simply the Netflix of women's personal development. A huge library of all of the things you see here: video modules, masterclasses, downloads, guides, handouts. We do run live group coaching. We've got a team of resident experts on tap. So yes, I specialize in assertiveness, but I've also got experts who help all of our subscribers with things like hormones, money, sex and relationships, mindset, personal style. The list goes on. We have an amazing private Facebook community. It'll give you access to exclusive in-person events, and then you get a discount on loads of different products and services, all from the palm of your hand in a little shiny app. Look, there you go. I've even got it on my phone. There's the app. Of course, I've got it on my phone. Why wouldn't I have that on my phone? So my invite to you is to get yourself the app. Download the app. It is in the Google Play Store. It is in the App Store, so it is really easy to get your hands on. And I just want to show you the breadth, the brevity of content and help and support and areas of your life that you can access through a subscription within the app. So if I could tell you that you are going to get all of these things, all right? So confidence, mindset, influence, sex and pleasure, obviously assertiveness, career development, maybe pelvic floor needs a bit of support. We've got modules on pelvic floor, menopause. We've got yoga sessions and body weight workouts, meditation sessions, money and finance, sleep modules, relationships, stress and anxiety, resilience, personal style, and that's just a handful of them. All right. So if I told you that you were going to get all of that through those modules, masterclasses, downloads, guides, all of that good stuff, and that meant that you'd be able to do all of these things, you'd get all of this, a deeper sense of self-worth, increased happiness, so much more freedom, greater self-confidence, you reconnected with your true identity, you had less stress, worry and anxiety, you felt liberated and in control of your own destiny, and that brought you an abundance of success. What would that be worth to you? What would that be worth to you? If you've got a piece of paper now or in your head, think of that. How much would that be worth to you to have that at your fingertips? Be interesting. I'd be interested to see what you wrote down. Well, how about this? How about this? You can download the app and then you can subscribe to our VIP membership. This is what I highly recommend, our VIP membership, for just £27 a month. Okay. So on purpose, deliberately less than what you pay for a gym membership that many of you aren't using every week. All right. So just £27 a month, you can go all in and go VIP, which means that you get the whole Netflix set up, the whole library of resources in all areas of your life, but you also get all of the live content and access. So you get access to live group coaching every month with me, live masterclasses every month with my team of resident experts. You've got an exclusive Facebook community so that you can share your successes, your challenges, your goals, any help and support you need with fellow members in the community. And as I said, you also then get exclusive access to in-person events. We run an annual women's personal development, empowerment and wellbeing festival called Womanifest. So obviously you get first dibs on that. We run many workshops. We have lots of social events where we get together and we network. So you get all access to be able to come to that. First dibs, first come, first served, all for just £27 a month. So that is option one, and the option that I highly recommend you sign up to. But if that's just not possible for you at the minute, then option two, we do have a standard membership option. So similar to the price it is for your Netflix subscription every month, then you can get access to the Netflix of personal development. So that includes the whole set of resources within the app in all areas of your life, all of the recorded modules, recorded masterclasses, all of the downloads, guides, books, all of that good stuff in there. It just doesn't have any of the live access. You can get all of that for $8.99 a month. So, as I've said to you earlier, you can get your hands on that right now. It's live right now. You can download it in Google Play or in the App Store. You can get started immediately. You can subscribe to either of those two plans in the app and get going. We've even got in there lots of tracking facilities so you can set yourself goals, you can track your progress. It's really, really easy to kind of keep motivated. I send out our community messages to boost their mojo, give them a bit of motivation as we go, to keep momentum going for you. So I would love, 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 love to see you come and join us in the app. I think it'd be fantastic. So I hope you've enjoyed this masterclass. And it's been useful. It's given you some tips and unlocked that secret to you living, you getting exactly what you want in life and business so that you can live the happy, fulfilling and successful life that you deserve. So I look forward to seeing you in the membership via the app. So get yourself subscribed right now. I'll see you soon.